Hi everyone, so I'm here today with a book review. I don't do these super often. I don't read now as much as I would like to actually, but I'm trying to get into more of a regular pattern of reading, and then every time I've finished some books or bought some new books, I'd like to do book hauls or do some reviews. So today I've got 3 different books that I want to kind of give a star rating, give my opinions on them. These are just my opinions, so if you disagree, that's fair enough. We all have different interests, different, reading styles, just different things that we criticize or find good. But if you do disagree, or if you have a certain opinion about these books, leave me a comment because I'd love to hear what you think. If you've read any of these, or if you want to read any of these, leave me a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So the first one, let's get straight into it. The first one is The Handmaid's Tale. So I started reading this with a student. So I had a student come to me studying English literature at A-level. This is one of the books on the curriculum. I hadn't read it before, so we started reading it together, and then my student actually moved in the end, so she went to another school, she moved away, but we'd read most of the book, so I actually finished it off, on my own. So to tell you a little bit about this, you might know of it, there's a sequel that's recently come out, there's a TV show being made of The Handmaid's Tale, or, that has been made, that's quite popular at the moment, I think. So this is about kind of a dystopian future, kind of like an alternative reality, sort of like a science fiction sort of thing, and moral stories, like the way they've described it. And basically it's this idea that you've got this area in America, I think it is, and where you have these handmaids, and they're kind of the centre part of the story, hence the name. And these handmaids have to have sex each month with this random man, like this wealthy man that they've been like set with. They hardly know him, and they have to try and breed and like repopulate. So it's really quite a weird story. It kind of feels, kind of like how things used to be, like kind of woman and male roles, stuff like that. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. So I would give this a 3 out of 5. And if someone said, would you recommend it to someone or not? If I had to pick yes or no, I would probably just pick no. Now, I know a lot of people love this. I know people like the show. But for me, it's not really my thing, and there was a lot of problems with it. However, what I would say was good is that it definitely was interesting. It was really easy to read. I think it's quite a good concept, this idea of like how things could be. They're quite like scary but interesting books to read. I thought the central character was good. So we have this lady called Offred. And she seems quite nice. She's quite a good narrator, telling us through the story, trying to explain what happened, stuff like that. But then I feel like the other characters aren't as developed. So, some of the people she's living with, we don't get to know about them as much, which I suppose reflects the circumstances, if we're not talking to people as much. But I just feel like we don't really ever get to know anybody's, true personality too much. I would say it's worth a read. If you're studying English literature at A-level or degree level and you haven't read this or you're not studying it, I would still say it's worth a read because it's a sort of book that you can get loads out of in terms of analysis. I mean, if you can see through my pages, there's like analysis highlighted on every page. So I was really going through this with my student. I feel like there's a lot to sort of pick out of it. So, you can really analyse in quite a lot of depth. So there's a lot of like key themes in it, kind of like the future, kind of like feminism themes, just the themes of gender, the themes of love. There's a lot of stuff in this. So I think it's a really good book to study. And I feel like that with certain books. I feel like there are some books that are really good, to write about, to do essays on, to really look in detail at. And then there's other books that you just want to read because you really enjoy them. This is more of the study type. I wouldn't really read this and particularly enjoy it. So the main reasons why I'd say I wouldn't enjoy it is because I feel the whole story, I just feel like it has a lot of plot holes in it. I feel like a lot of things aren't explained as much. Now, I know we don't always need things explained in immense detail and all spelled out for us, but I do sometimes feel like, if you're talking about something quite, in the future, a bit weird, very unusual, we kind of need to know what's happened. I feel like we don't go into a lot of detail about what happened before, why the world has come like this. There's some stuff to do with like there was some sort of radiation thing, but it's never really made clear, and I feel like it's quite important to kind of know, why the world has come like this. And this whole idea of, these handmaids, so, women of a certain age, I think, being set up with this older man who has a wife, usually the commander, and them having to have like a weird like sex ritual every month. I kind of don't get that. Like, if you want to breed, why do these specific people have to breed? There might be a reason for it, but it's never really explained or explored in the book. I feel like if that was the case, that they wanted to repopulate the earth, if there's a lack of babies and stuff, surely they would just encourage everybody to just be like having sex all the time and trying to breed. It just seems a bit strange to me. Maybe that's just my thing and that's something I'm missing, but there was just a few things I felt I didn't quite get it. Another thing is, I would say, the way it's written is sometimes very irritating, again, probably just for me, but we have this so we have our narrator, and while she's nice, she often does this sort of stream of consciousness style writing, and some of it's like very like clunky, hard to read stuff. I know it's done on purpose, so it sounds a bit clunky, so it sounds a bit like her head's all over the place, but it just seems a bit sometimes like the author's trying too hard to make it seem like that. So it doesn't seem very subtle, and just some of it is just a little bit cringy, like the way things are repeated. If I just read this bit here, I've just found a random page. My hands are shaking. Why am I frightened? I've crossed no boundaries. I've given no trust, taken no risk. All is safe. It's the choice that terrifies me. A way out, a salvation. A lot of it's written like that, sort of like quite extreme, quite like she's like saying a speech or something. I just think that seems a bit fake, a little bit weird. But again, if you're analysing, there's plenty of good stuff to analyse in there. And my final criticism is the ending. I just think the ending is quite lazy. I feel like personally the writer wasn't sure where to go with it. So they kind of just ended it a little bit abruptly. It felt a little bit, of a cliffhanger. So we do have, the second book has just come out, but I won't be reading that. I don't really care enough to know what happens next. But I think, if you read a book, it should kind of have more of a proper ending. It kind of just ends like, oh, what could happen? Which I don't mind an ambiguous ending. I like it when like, oh, this could happen or this could happen. This I found a bit too broad. I'd love some more indications of what was going to happen, stuff like that, without giving anything away, no spoilers. But yeah, I just found the ending, like I said, a little bit lazy. But, on the positive side, I think it's an interesting book. I think it's worth a read if you're studying. Personally, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone else, unless you're really interested in maybe dystopian future or like feminism stuff. But for me, it just wasn't really my sort of thing. There was a lot of faults with it that kind of put me off. Although I finished it and it was easy to read, so that is a good thing. Okay, so there's that one. Next up, we have The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. So this is by Mark Haddon, and this is a book aimed at probably slightly younger readers. I think this is also on the curriculum for, I think, around like 11-year-olds, like year 7. They recommend this book to read, getting high school students into reading probably slightly more advanced books, stuff like that. So this is about a 15-year-old boy called Christopher, and he has autism, and one day he finds his neighbour's dog on the lawn next door and it's dead, and basically he thinks someone's killed it because it has like a fork in its body, and he wants to know like what happened, and he ends up like uncovering lots of other mysteries. I would give this a 4 out of 5, and I would say, yes, I would recommend this. I really like this book, actually. I think some things were really good to me, like really stood out to me. And the first thing is the actual narration. So similar to The Handmaid's Tale, we have a protagonist who's telling the story. And with this boy, he's autistic, and it's so well written to give an insight into how he sees the world. And I think that's really good. If someone doesn't know so much about autism, stuff like that, this is a really good book to read to actually let people know how they see things differently. And actually, they're perfectly normal people. They're just, like I said, seeing things almost like a different lens or interpreting things differently, stuff like that. Very easy to read, very interesting. My criticism is that sometimes there was like very long sentences, poor grammar. I know, again, that was done on purpose to reflect the character and, how he would write. If he's scared, he might write like in long, like paragraphs or like really long sentences, lack of punctuation. For me, I find that sort of stuff a little bit annoying probably because I'm a tutor, and like if there's punctuation errors, I find it a bit annoying. But again, I can see why that's done on purpose. I kind of felt like there was like a couple of plot twists with this, which was quite good. I wasn't really expecting that. And also, it's a sort of book where, okay, it's called, it's meant to be all about this dog, but actually it's about a lot more than that. It's a lot more about sort of coming of age, dealing with autism, family problems, stuff like that. So while we've got this kind of fun mystery element, it's a lot about the character, and you do sort of care about him and stuff, which is nice. Another criticism, sort of, is that it feels like the book's done about halfway through. We kind of have like a kind of big resolution. Again, no spoilers, but we kind of find out about some important stuff about halfway through. And from there, it kind of feels like, oh, the book could have just ended then. Like, I feel like we kind of need, like, we know everything we need to know at that point. It feels like everything is resolved. But it is nice that the book continues and we wrap even more stuff up. But I just feel like some of it could have been prolonged a little bit more. Yeah, generally I'd say it's a really enjoyable book and I would recommend this. It's quite fun. Like I said, it's really good insight into this character. I like the whole sort of mystery element, but like I said, it's more even just about his family and how he deals with life and stuff like that. And it's kind of like him being like a detective trying to find out stuff, which is super fun for, like, you know, a 15-year-old boy to, you know, run his own like little investigation. So I'd highly recommend this one. Okay, sorry this video is going to be super long. I'll try and like edit out some of my ramblings, but I just want to give like a nice in-depth, you know, reading into these books. And like I said, if you have any opinions, if you disagree, agree with me, if you've read these books, let me know what you think. I would love to hear. The last one is a point horror book, and it's The Boy Next Door. Now this isn't as well known, so those two books are quite well known. People might not have heard of this. Point horror is quite an old series. I think they were written mostly in the 90s, and as the name indicates, they're all horror-based stories. They're all quite short books, mainly aimed at, I think, teens or young adult books. I love reading young adult books though. I think they're just a little bit interesting. They're not your typical like murder mystery or sort of adult kind of boring stories. I find them a little bit more unique. So this one's about a girl called Randy, and her father's away from home, and then she meets this boy who's supposedly moving in next door, and he's a little bit weird, and she starts to worry that, you know, maybe he's not a good friend and stuff like that. So, you know, it sounds really good, but I didn't really enjoy it. So I gave this a 1 out of 5, maybe a 1.5 out of 5 if I'm feeling generous, and I would say no, I wouldn't recommend this book. So I think it's an interesting concept, maybe a little bit cliched, and that's the thing really. I felt like it did have a lot of cliches. It's very easy to read. It didn't take me long to read at all. You know, the words, the font size, you know, all of that is quite big. It's quite a basic story. There's not too much like going on, but that's all kind of a bad thing. There's definitely an overuse of cliches. And capital letters. Right, I don't know if this is just me, but I swear this book uses like capitals too much. Like if someone's shouting, they'll be like in capitals, like all of this. If my neighbour hadn't happened to come by, I'd probably be dead. The guy ran away, but now there's a killer on the loose. It just seems a little bit childish, and I suppose it would be okay if I was a 12-year-old girl, but I'm probably just a bit too old for this book, to be honest. But even then, I just don't think it's very well written. You know, not to mean it's a good story somewhat. I think it's an interesting idea, but yeah, stuff like the capital letters, stuff like this, it just didn't seem to fit. Like, is someone like screaming? Even then, I don't think you ever really use like full capitals. Anyway, that's a minor thing. What was good is I thought they tried to do like a little twist end, which was pretty interesting. So the ending probably stood out as the best part for me. But generally I just found it quite forgettable and really just not that good, to be honest. So yeah, I wouldn't really recommend that. But yeah, I would definitely say I would recommend this one. Handmaid's Tale, I would recommend if that would be maybe your sort of thing, or if you're studying English, definitely worth a read. And you know, if it's on your curriculum, I think that'd be a really awesome one to talk about. So there we go. So hopefully this video won't be too long, but I hope you've enjoyed listening to my thoughts on these books. Like I said, let me know down below if you have any different opinions or just what you thought about them if you've read them. Let me know if you'd like to read any of these. Do you think any of these books would sound like your sort of thing? And yeah, please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this. I appreciate, you know, any likes if you liked hearing my thoughts and you like this sort of review. And yeah, and subscribe if you want to see more of this sort of stuff. I'm going to be doing all sorts of stuff, so please subscribe if you like me, or if you just want to see more of what I have to do. I'd really appreciate that. But yeah, thank you so much for watching today, and I'll see you all soon. Bye!